The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
And indeed, the trio are in studio once again. Yeah, we bring you a whole lot of discussion of 2025, especially when it comes to NASCAR, but a little bit of Formula One in there as well. Good grief, do we have a lot of talk about Indianapolis. Hey, you know what they're dealing with? That's right. They got the Indy 500 coming up. There's a whole lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to Indy. Rumors continue to abound. We will do our level best to try and clear them up because, as you know, we don't deal with rumors a whole lot on this particular show, but some of them are just getting really weird. Got another Australian Supercars driver coming to NASCAR. We got tire options for one series that we need to explain. Charters may be coming to IndyCar sooner rather than later. And we lose a big name in the racing world. We'll detail all of that and much more coming up next on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome into the show. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. Not pictured Producer John Myers. Hope everything's going well with you this morning. We appreciate you joining in. And as we have said many, many times, if you have not had the opportunity to subscribe yet, we ask that you please do on CRN Live on YouTube. If you're listening on our flagship station, we appreciate that as well. And, of course, don't forget, if you happen to go outside of the realm of the FM signal, download the app, 95.1 The Mountain app, on really any smart device you could possibly find.
Yep.
Let's talk about the racing last weekend, and we'll talk about last Saturday. Safer Formula E, we detailed that during the show. Began with the Xfinity Series at Darlington, where all season long it seemed like kind of something was determined to keep the series veteran Justin Allgaier from being able to claim a win. He was able to avoid all of those weird little demons and whatever else that it was, and was able to take his junior motorsports entry to victory lane in rather dominating fashion, 3.4 seconds ahead of second place. That was Austin Hill. Your pole sitter Cole Custer came home third. Sam Mayer was fourth, followed by Eric Almirola getting another ride. Parker Kligerman, Riley Earps, Jesse Love, Sheldon Creed, Brandon Jones making up the top 10 with the win. By the way, his third at Darlington in Xfinity Series competition. It was actually the 24th win for his career in the series. That ties him with one Dale Earnhardt Jr., his boss, for 10th most Xfinity Series wins in the series history. He also broke a tie with Kyle Busch, not in wins, number of top 10s, 267 all time.
I didn't realize he did that.
Yeah, he's been there for a while.
Yeah, he has.
Updated series standings. Austin Hill, Chandler Smith, 2 wins each. Now a win each for Jesse Love, Justin Allgaier, Sam Mayer. Those are in seed order, and they're all locked into the playoffs. In on points, the SHR twins of Cole Custer and Riley Earps, two look nothing alike. AJ Allmendinger, Sheldon Creed, Parker Kligerman, Anthony Alfredo, and Brandon Jones. Jones with a 12-point cushion on Sammy Smith for that 12th and final playoff spot. Next up, yes, it was a Saturday race for the NTT Indycar Series, beginning their month of May in their own backyard, Indianapolis. They were running on the road course, the Sansio Grand Prix. Something fancy about that. I don't know. Sansio.
I'm still used to it being called the Gallagher Grand Prix. If you ask me.
I understand. Alex Palou claimed the pole, turned that into a win in a race that featured exactly one caution, a spin by the rookie, Luca Giotto. Palou in all led 39 of the 85 laps, one of 8 leaders on the day, ended up beating Will Power to the checkered flag by a bit over 6.5 seconds. Christian Lundgaard with a good run finished third, Scott Dixon fourth, and Marcus Armstrong filled out the top 5. Rest of your top 10, Scott McLaughlin. Then you got Colton Herta, Alexander Rossi, Graham Rahal, Felix Rosenqvist, all sitting in there. Alex Palou sitting atop the series standings, 12 up on Will Power. 6-time champion Scott Dixon, 25 back, and in a points tie with Colton Herta, but he's got the tiebreaker on that. Felix Rosenqvist, 45 behind. Linus Lundqvist leads the rookie points by 8 over Kiffin Simpson, 27 over Tom Blomqvist. Teo Porcher, Christian Rasmussen are 30 and 36 back, respectively. I mentioned Teo mainly because he's going to start jumping up in those standings, I think, with his opportunity after the Indy 500 to take over that ride.
Yep.
Foreshadowing. Honda leads Chevy in the engine manufacturing standings, but rather slim 11 points, so a lot can change, especially when you consider the fact that double points are handed out in the Indy 500.
Oh. The way things are looking, it's going to change.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let's finish this, and then we'll talk about it during the scheduling situation here. Last Sunday morning, Berlin, Germany, Formula E got the second race of the doubleheader weekend in. Late in the race, Antonio Felix DaCosta got around Mitch Evans, was able to hold off a very big charge from Nick Cassidy and Oliver Rowland. Rowland, by the way, started the race in 16th place and was able to jump up into the top 5. Came up short, just finished third behind Cassidy when the checkers were shown to the field. DaCosta knew a bit about a big charge because he himself started the race in 10th. He was able to get the win. I don't know what it was. A lot of movement over in Berlin last weekend.
It was.
Pascal Wehrlein, fourth. Pole sitter Jake Dennis coming home fifth. Then Evans, who faded to sixth. The Jehan Daravula. Taylor Bernard, who was doing a fill-in role and may find himself in a permanent role before too much longer. Joel Eriksson, Jean-Eric Verne completed the top 10. Nick Cassidy, points leader, 16 up on Pascal Wehrlein. Oliver Rowland's 22 back, 28 down Jake Dennis, and in fifth, sitting 43 back is Mitch Evans. It's pretty much amongst those top 5. And just because we like to go through the whole list, even though, let's face it, anybody that doesn't have at least 100 points is out of it. Jaguar continuing really, really good season for them. They have 237 points up over Tag Heuer Porsche, who's got 183 in the team standings. Nissan's got 144, DS Penske 127, 126 for Andretti. Then you drop down to Maserati with 73, 68 for McLaren. Envision's got 43, 23 for ERT. ABT Cupra has 19, and Mahindra, well, at least they scored points. Of course, it happened on Saturday, 7.
Mm-hmm.
At least they don't have a 0.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give them that.
That is true.
In the afternoon on Sunday last week, Cup Series got into the track on Darlington, onto and into in some ways, with so much made about when is Ford ever going to claim a win this year. Being in the right place at the right time, let's face it, it's got a lot to do with it. As laps wound down, one Brad Keselowski, who was, by the way, riding a 110-race winless streak in the process, was battling Tyler Reddick when the two got into each other. Brad Keselowski on a 110-race winning streak actually watched his teammate Chris Buescher get by him while Tyler Reddick and he were claiming, kind of fighting around for things. So Chris Buescher claims the lead. Reddick starts to reel him back in, though. And with 10 to go, Reddick tries this, I can't figure out a better way to put it, so I'm just going to put it as a dive bomb move.
That's exactly what it was, a dive bomb.
Into turn 3.
A failed dive bomb.
Yeah, because there's a lot of tracks you can do a dive bomb move. Darlington, really not one of them.
If you time it in the right position, and it's got to be timed perfectly.
And I would say probably better if you tried it in turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, because you're carrying a whole lot more momentum into 1 and 2, and turns 1 and 2 is wider.
Uh-huh.
But turn 3 and 4, you have to go from 165, 170 down to 120, 125.
Yeah.
And 1 and 2, you're going from 175, 180 down to probably 150 at worst.
Yeah, I was going to say 155, 160 probably.
Yeah,
Like
when running the simulations, you can do that.
Yeah.
Especially, but with worn out tires, you have to, you can't do it.
And as unforgiving as Darlington tends to be.
Very.
Darlington says, you make a mistake, I'm going to make you pay for it. So it didn't pay off. He had way too much speed to hold it, pushed him up and into Buescher. That allowed Keselowski to go back around and reclaim the lead. He was able to hold off a late charge from Ty Gibbs to snap the winless streak, not only of his own, but Ford's as well. So Keselowski ends a personal 110-race win streak, or non-winning streak. And Ford finally, after beginning the year with 12 races in, not getting a win, finally has one on the year. Filling out the top 10, Josh Berry with his best finish so far for Stewart-Haas Racing. He finished 3rd. Denny Hamlin 4th and Chase Briscoe in 5th. William Byron, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, Justin Haley, and Michael McDowell fill out the top 10. Names that we don't normally hear, but then again, Darlington is one of those tracks where you either nail it from the beginning or you've missed it. And if you've nailed it, you're good.
More times than none, you're going to miss it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
More times than none.
But yeah, a lot of names in the top 10 that we're not used to. So in the aftermath, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, 3 wins each, 2 wins for Kyle Larson. Then the new list of single-time winners in seed order features Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski, Christopher Bell, and Daniel Suarez. That accounts for half of your 16 Cup Series playoff points or spots. The other half, which is in on points, is starting with producer John's favorite driver, Martin Truex Jr. Then Ty Gibbs, Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe. Briscoe sitting in 16th place has a 6-point lead over Bubba Wallace for that final spot. Nowhere near breathing a sigh of relief. This weekend slate of racing actually begins a little bit later on today. Indycar beginning day 1 of qualifications for the Indy 500. That'll be airing on Peacock. Remember that when that used to be on television? And the IndyCar Radio Network starts really right after we get off the air, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Time. Craftsman Truck Series heading to North Wilkesboro for the Wright Brand 250 on Fox Sports 1 and MRN Radio. Assuming Mother Nature allows them, it'll start at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Central Time. Cup Series will take to North Wilkesboro Speedway for the All-Star Open. Fox Sports 1 MRN Radio this evening. Again, Mother Nature permitting, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Central Time. That'll be followed by the heat races, and that'll set the lineup for the All-Star itself, the All-Star feature. Sunday actually begins overseas in Italy with Formula One. They're running the MSC Cruises Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix on the Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari.
Why
do I have this desire for lasagna all of a sudden? Anyway, that's an 18-turn, 3.05-mile-long course. ESPN2, The Deuce, airs the race beginning 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. Hey, the long-lost NHRA is back. They're running the finals of the Gerber Collision and Glass NHRA Route 66 Nationals presented by Peak Performance. Could we get any more words in there? It's at Route 66 Dragway near Chicago, Illinois. Finals action starts at about 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. But if you want to see it on television, you'll have to wait. Kind of. Round 1 will be on Fox Sports 1 at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. Then they'll suspend that. They'll go to All-Star coverage for the Cup Series. I'll get to that in a second. And then they'll finish off the finals starting at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central Time, again on Fox Sports 1. Huh?
Oh, boy.
I wonder about TV people sometimes. I really do.
Having to listen to that right there, the way they're doing it, doesn't make my migraine any easier this morning.
Yeah, I understand. Again, they're going to interrupt it for the Cup Series, running the All-Star race on the historic North Wilkesboro Speedway. Fox Sports 1 MRN Radio begins 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. But, of course, you got all the pre-race stuff and everything going on with that. Formula E Xfinity Series are going to be off on this rather busy weekend. All right. Before we take our first break, let's talk about the whole Indy 500 thing, because Tuesday was supposed to be the first day of testing. They got about 10 minutes in before Mother Nature came in and said, you know what, I want to play too. And when she started to play, nobody else could.
Yeah.
Wednesday, things got started late because Mother Nature was still playing, but finally decided, okay, I'll let you guys play. And they were really more in race trim than they were in qualifying trim on Wednesday. But we were seeing speeds that were going up right into about the 230 range on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Then they got into qualifying trim. Thursday and yesterday. And, of course, today starts round 1 of qualifying. Last year, pole was just shy of 235.
Yeah. Practice 1, top speed, 229.1.
Mm-hmm.
Practice 3 speed, which 2 was canceled, 229.4.
Okay.
Practice 4 fell a little bit to 228.8. And practice 5, how about a 234.97? And the cars are not even trimmed all the way out.
We could see 235 in qualifying. We'll find out later today.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers with you, and we start off with the Cup Series because, well, if you checked out the Cross Flags podcast on Wednesday, you know that Matt and I aren't necessarily all that far off when it comes to it. I'm not as massively opposed to this as Matt is.
This explains why I've had a migraine since Wednesday.
Yeah. I don't know why we're taking a cue from the NBA, but we are. NASCAR, specifically the Cup Series, set to introduce an in-season tournament next year where the winner's going to pick up a nice $1 million bonus. It begins with a new TV deal next year. Format announced early this week featuring the top 32 drivers, and we're going to show you what it will look like on CRN Live on YouTube.
Unfortunately.
Because this will look a lot like March Madness. 32 drivers in bracket form. Head-to-head result of a specific race will decide who moves on to the next round. The 32 drivers will be seeded based upon a few factors. I said we would get into this more in detail because, well, the podcast, we're somewhat limited on our time. Here we've got a little bit more, generally. All right. So how do we get to the 32 drivers? First, the highest result of the driver from the prior races, 3 of them, up to the beginning of the tournament. So technically this will be an 8-race deal, with 5 races actually determining the winner, and then 3 races determining the setup.
My first problem was this.
It's overly complicated, is what it is.
Yeah, it's completely overly complicated. Why are we even doing this to start with? I said this Wednesday.
You nailed it on Wednesday, I think.
Said this Wednesday.
Yeah, I think you nailed it perfectly.
We have a car problem. We have a tire problem.
Yeah.
But yet we're gimmicking our way into having, we'll get some more content in for the series to bring more eyes to it. No, we do not need to take a page from the flipping NBA. And this is the page off of the NBA and TNT.
Yeah. And
TNT had nothing, got their fingerprints all over this.
Sure, yeah. They were probably looking for something that made sure that people understood, hey, these 5 races are over here on our network. And I'll say this as well, because I think you also nailed it on this one. You said that the Cup Series doesn't have anything like what the Truck Series has when it comes to the Triple Truck Challenge or the Xfinity Series has when it comes to Dash for Cash.
Thank you.
And if you think about it, it does kind of make sense because we go from the Triple Truck Challenge, which is a money grab for the Truck Series consisting of 3 races.
Yeah.
Dash for Cash is 4 races in the Xfinity Series. So you go to the Cup Series, you up at 1 more, you're up to 5 races.
Well,
so it does make sense that that's what they're trying to do.
Well, by technicality, Dash for Cash is 5 races because the race before it starts determines the 4 that's going to be in round 1.
And if you want to go that way, then this one consists of 8.
Okay, but my entire problem with this right here, besides being overly dadgum complicated,
that they're trying to cover up.
They're trying to cover up. They're trying to look like the NBA and say, "Oh, Denny Hamlin brought this." No, that's TNT all day long because TNT has been for outside of the NCAA tournament. There's no eyes on TNT. There's really no eyes on TNT.
Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, why does it take 3 races to do the seeding when you can take 1 race and do the seeding? Okay. So, all right, we got.
You want to know why? It helps out Amazon Prime.
Hey, yeah, it helps Amazon. It's helping Amazon Prime. Okay. Big deal. If you, let's just back up, man. I'm going to kind of touch on something that I touched on Wednesday. If you fix the car and you fix the tire package, which would improve the super speedways, it would fix the short tracks, it would fix the road courses. The intermediates are okay. They're fine right now.
Yeah. In fact, arguably, it's the best racing going.
You fix the super speedways, the short tracks, and the road courses to where we're not sitting out there on a super speedway race acting like we're driving Miss Daisy on lap 94 at Talladega Oh, we got 94 laps to go. Oh, we're just going to ride. Yeah,
half throttle.
Give me a break. When I can go out there and lay my foot on the firewall and pull away from the pack as a solo car, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
You've got a big problem.
But again, this is, and we talked about this after Talladega. We really started to talk about it after Daytona. This is trying to find that situation of how do we save time on pit road? Because the less time that we spend on pit road, the better chance we got to be in out front. And because it takes such a relatively short period of time to use the gun to spin off one lug nut as opposed to 5 per wheel.
And it by the sheer thing of what we call common sense, this is how we've got to this. You're spending less time on pit road because this race car is such junk that you cannot pass, so you've got to use a track position game.
Even at a super speedway.
It all adds up. It all comes together back in the full circle mode. So if you fix the car, you fix the tire package problem, guess what? You're going to improve your racing. Therefore, what? It's going to bring more eyes onto the broadcast of people that can't be there.
Yeah. Yep.
Look at that. It's a simple fix. NASCAR, I'll run the sport for a year, and I promise you I can fix it. Because if you would start listening to the men and women that sit in the seat of the cars,
they'll tell you.
You'll fix a lot of problems.
They'll tell you. Absolutely. All right. So, again, 5-race tournament, all of the races on TNT. Highest result of the driver from the 3 prior races leading up to the beginning of the tournament. If there happens to be a tie there, the second will be their second best finish. And if there's still a tie, then the third will be based upon where they sit in the standings to that point in the year. Get it? Don't worry about it. We really didn't either. And we work here. The 3 races leading up to the tournament, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th races on the Amazon Prime portion of the schedule. And again, the tournament made up of the 5 races, all of them going on to TNT. You go from 32 to 16, 16 to 8, 8 to 4, and then the final 2 matching up against each other for the money. What exactly all of those races are going to be, we don't know. Because the 2025 schedule has yet to be finalized.
I'll call my shot now, and you could timestamp it at 8:29 a.m. on May 18th, 2024. There's going to be a major date get shifted into that 5-race playoff to close because TNT's not going to want to close out the 5-race in-race season tournament playoff, $1 million dash, whatever you want to call it.
At New Hampshire.
They're not going to do it at New Hampshire. They're not going to do it at Dover, no. Watkins Glen, Michigan. You could see them do it at somewhere like Kansas.
Oh, yeah. They're going to want a mile and a half. They're going to want a strength, or they're going to want a marquee.
You're going to want to see them maybe do it at Bristol. I'm throwing out here.
Would you move Bristol off of the August night race?
The 5-race playoff will end in August.
Barely.
You're going to have June 28th. Now, if you have a week off in there somewhere,
Yeah, big if. Not really sure it's going to happen.
You're looking at first to second week of August, worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Worst case.
I don't know. I'm not sure I'm putting Bristol up that far because usually it's late August or early September for Bristol.
Oh, yeah. Or here's a wild thought. Daytona.
Oof. Whatever you do.
They're going to want to do that.
Whatever you do. Because we already know this. I'll give you a hint. They've already told us where the first race of this in-season tournament's going to be. And it's going to be in the Southeast. Luckily, it's at a track that's got lights.
In the summer.
Yeah. Which brings me to, please, for the love, don't move Talladega back to the summertime.
No.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You can think about it, but don't do it.
As I heard when 2021, when I went to Texas Motor Speedway in June, 108 degrees during the day, which I'll never do that again.
Ouch.
Dave Moody had the best line I've ever heard. It's hotter than hell's doorknob out here.
Uh-huh.
July, August in Alabama, it will be twice as hot as hell's doorknob.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
No.
NASCAR released a statement about their in-season tournament. They said, and this is just a basic overall statement from NASCAR, don't know who wrote it up. Quote, the idea of an in-season tournament has been discussed within the NASCAR industry, and as we started to focus on adding promotional elements that drive interest throughout the season, we were excited about the opportunity to leverage the marketing weight of Amazon and TNT Sports to bring this concept to life. Okay, congratulations.
Or here's a better idea. If you want to do something for $1 million, how about revive the Winston Million? How about revive the old No Bull 5 format? That'll do it just as good.
I understand that. But I'll say this. I mean, again, and I said this on the podcast on Wednesday. You want to come up with a neat little idea that's kind of like the Dash for Cash or whatever, and you want to make it this overtly complicated tournament. Okay, fine. Go ahead, do it. I mean, it's no skin off my nose. It's $1 million out of your pocket because NASCAR is going to pay it. But here's the thing. With the amount of money that NASCAR has been bleeding when it comes to certain things, like listening to the wrong people and throwing out so much money to the city of Chicago that reportedly they lost, $50 million on the race just last year, and we're going to go back. Can you really afford to do this in the long term? Without understanding somewhere down the line, you're going to end up cutting corners later on down the line? Because you can't just go throwing good money after bad. You're not the United States government. You can't print your own money. And I get it. You just signed a new fairly lucrative 7-year deal for a little bit more than what your 10-year deal had been total. But you still can't throw money after money. You can't throw dollar bill after dollar bill and expect everything to just be hunky-dory. You got problems. You got to fix them.
Or here's a better idea. Here's an even better idea. You take that money that you're getting from a TV deal and you adequately and fairly help your teams out that, like they've been saying, till they're royal blue in the face of it. 1. 2, you take it and instead of just letting the tracks sit on the money, make them invest it back into the tracks. Some have done so. Some have done so.
Sure.
But you take those investments.
Our own Talladega is one of them.
You take those investments and you up it by a couple of pylon steps. There's a code word in there.
Yeah.
You up it by a little bit and you make it that much better instead of taking one track or the other and you making it your showcase, because one track is just as good as the other when it comes to making your facilities presentable. That's the word I'm looking for.
By the way, if you want to know about a little bit more about the consultant deal that I hinted to just a couple of moments ago, go onto our website, crnradio.us, go into the blog section and look for the latest one. That'll explain a lot.
Yeah, it will.
As noted, we haven't seen the 2025 Cup Series schedule yet. It's not finalized. There are things that are coming out about this particular slate, breaking down how the schedule kind of seems to be shaping up. Fox is going to do the first 14 events of the year, and I say events because this will include the Busch Light Clash and the All-Star Race non-points events. 5 races for Amazon Prime, TNT with the 5 that we just mentioned, then NBC getting the final 14 races of the year. That is going to remain that way through 2031, right? Okay. What races will be on streaming only? In other words, Amazon Prime. Well, the only one that we know for certain is going to be on Amazon Prime is the Coca-Cola 600. Yep. This means that what we know here is this. There's going to be one weekend off from when the 2025 season officially begins with the Daytona 500. And we know that the Daytona 500 goes the weekend after the Super Bowl next year. That we know. Busch Light Clash the weekend before the Super Bowl. It always brackets it. Once you get started to go to the All-Star race, you count those weekends, one weekend off. Mother's Day, Easter, we don't know which. Again, haven't seen the schedule. And then Fox ends. Amazon Prime begins, so Amazon Prime gets a crown jewel race, which they should be pretty happy about.
Should be, well, but it kind of throws a flag up there when Fox gives up one of their crown jewel races.
Yep.
Throws a flag up to me. But now, which makes me want to understand it, makes me want to see who Amazon and TNT has for their lead broadcaster.
Yes.
We know one piece of the puzzle already.
We know Dale Jr.
That's the only thing
we
Who's
know.
the lead broadcaster?
Okay.
And when you got keen eyes that look on social media and look at who follows who on which social media platform, there's been some keen eyes pick up that one Alan Bestwick follows Prime Video and TNT stuff.
Yeah.
So
We'll see.
Please.
Yeah. It'd be a great pickup. It would be a fantastic pickup.
It would.
The other 4 races on Amazon Prime, we don't know yet. Then you go to TNT, the complete 2025 schedule, again, not known. Of the things that we know, TNT's slate of 5 races, we hinted to it. They're going to take and move Atlanta back into the summertime after this year when it's going to be in the playoff area. And you'll run Atlanta June 28th. That's Saturday evening, thank God, to keep the fans from bursting into flame in the grandstands. It also means that the tournament will begin under Speedway rules because, again, it's Atlanta.
Yeah.
2 other notes about the 2025 schedule have come down in the last couple of days. Number 1, the All-Star race will remain at North Wilkesboro Speedway. That'll mark year number 3 in a row for that to be at North Wilkesboro. Have zero problem with that.
Good move.
Have zero problem with that.
Smart move.
And then NASCAR Championship weekend. End of the year. Halloween, November 1st and November 2nd of 2025. It remains at Phoenix Raceway, where they have been deciding the championship of NASCAR's top 3 divisions since the year 2020.
Why?
This does go a long way to explain why they did so much tire testing of the short track package at Phoenix after last year, because they're going back there this year and they want to try and make it as good as they possibly can.
I see that aspect of it, but why are we so dead set on Phoenix? Why?
I want to know. I don't have a problem going to Phoenix, but I want to know why we're not, if we're going to take a page out of the other sports that are out there. We can literally take a page from the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the NFL. Because unless you happen to have a repeat participant in the World Series, Stanley Cup Finals, or NBA Championship Finals, which happens, but not technically all that often, you're going to find yourself going to different cities for your finals.
Sure.
And let's face it, the NFL puts the Super Bowl in a different city every single year. I know weather's a concern. But this, if nothing else, should prompt NASCAR, which owns what we used to call Auto Club Speedway, now Fontana again. This should put a massive jetpack on the back of NASCAR to go and try and get that track in Southern California finished. Because what I would do is I would do something similar to what the NFL does. The NFL tends to try to put the Super Bowl in a nice weather city, considering they play it in February, so that you're not trying to get yourself into and out of a blizzard to go watch the biggest football game of the year. And because NASCAR is an outdoor sport on tracks that don't have domes, in other words, we can't necessarily go to some specific tracks just because the weather conditions are not going to be great. You're not going to New Hampshire. You're not going to Pocono. You're not going to Michigan in November. Let's face it. Put Phoenix on a rotation. I don't have a problem going to Phoenix. Phoenix is a great city. They've hosted Super Bowls. They've hosted a lot of other stuff. They're a great city. But put them in a rotation with other cities that we know can handle the weather at this kind of year. That's why I bring up Southern California. You could go there. We know you could go to Homestead, Miami. You and I did it. You might could go back to Atlanta, but again, you'd end under super speedway rules. You could go to Texas. You can go to Vegas. Not one of those cities. Miami, Homestead. Atlanta, Vegas, Phoenix, Los Angeles area. All of them are well known for hosting big-time sporting events. And they all have the weather to be able to handle it. Put them on a rotation, boys.
Dallas.
Exactly. Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Texas area.
I would go as far as to say Kansas City.
Could do that, too. And as much as I would like it, NASCAR's never going to bring the championship weekend to either Daytona or Talladega. It's not going to happen. You'll begin the season at Daytona. You won't end it there. Would I like to see it at Talladega? Absolutely. It's not going to happen. Put it on a rotation, folks, would ya?
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show with Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. And this year, it is All-Star Race Weekend for the Cup Series. This year, going to feature something that is, well, it's familiar if you follow Formula One or Indycar. We haven't really seen it much in NASCAR. Tire options. Now, obviously, we know this. It is a short track, and because it's a short track, we do have a wet weather tire. And those wet weather tires are denoted by having white lettering on the side. And I say white lettering, you think, well, wait a minute. Lettering. Have you been paying much attention to the lettering? Yeah, they do have colors. John's going to show you one of them. Again, the wet weather tires have white lettering on the side. That yellow or gold or whatever you want to call it on the Goodyear Racing Eagles, those are the slicks. That's the traditional color now. And that's what we've been used to seeing all year long.
Yeah, that one's classified as the primary option.
Yep. Then we have the optional tire, which I've heard some people say the soft compound, or I've even heard, I think it's Dave Moody, call it the gumball.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that sticky, but that one will be denoted by red sidewall lettering.
It's really not, because after watching the practice session late yesterday afternoon,
it wasn't ridiculously faster, was it?
It was faster.
But not ridiculously.
It was faster, and it held up longer than what they was thinking.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. Now, this right here, the red lettering, kind of takes a page out of IndyCar's way of doing it, because if you watch IndyCar on a regular basis, you'll know their primary tire is a black sidewall tire. Their alternate tire, softer compound tire, has a red stripe around it with the Firestone logo. So, okay, I get it. That's good. It's going to be interesting to watch this process and whether or not this is going to be something that we're going to see on a much more regular basis on short tracks and or road courses.
I've got this sinking feeling that you are, because when your loudest critic, Denny Hamlin, says on the broadcast yesterday that I caught it on the broadcast.
Yeah, I heard it too.
Unquote, quote unquote, and I'm going to edit this.
Thank you.
I give Goodyear a lot of
yeah,
but they nailed this one. It's great.
Yeah,
I think you start listening.
I think you do too.
Because if you can run a softer compound tire at Wilkesboro that's got the aggregate in it that keeps the track where it will take rubber,
and it lasts for easily 50 lap runs.
I think the longest run I seen yesterday was 61 laps.
Without a severe fall off, remember Bristol.
That's not all that bad.
No, that's not bad at all.
That's a good thing.
If the drivers like it, maybe this is the compound that you start to bring.
Hence back to what I said in an earlier segment.
Yeah.
Start listening to the people that sit in the seat of the cars. And you can fix a lot.
Do you think that NASCAR will start? Because like IndyCar mandates that you got to use both tire compounds throughout the course of a race, as long as it's not raining. Is NASCAR going to go to that point?
At the point that they're at, what have you got to lose to try it?
Start bringing two compounds to every track?
Yeah, I mean, what have you got to lose to try it? You limit it to only
short tracks and road courses.
Well, I wasn't going to go as far as to say that, but you limit it to only 2 sets per race. 2. When you got to try it like Darlington, well, I would say Dover.
You're talking about the alternate compound.
Yeah, the alternate compounds. When you got these tracks that are really abrasive and chew tires up, bring the alternate option, but you only have 2 sets. But when you're making 6, 7, 8 pit stops a race, sometimes 9.
Yeah.
Charlotte, you may make 400 lap race at Charlotte for the 600. You may make 10 pit stops.
So would you like to see this tire at Charlotte?
What have you got to lose?
Okay. Let me up it a little bit more. Would you like to see it at Michigan?
What have you got to lose? That's the only thing I can say. What have you got to lose right now?
Okay.
If they're sitting there saying that this could fix a lot and allow and open up passing, what have you got to lose?
Throwing it out there. NASCAR says the teams are going to get 9 sets of tires for the weekend, that there will be no mixing of tire compounds. In other words, if you're going to put yellows on one side, you got to put the yellows on the other too. For practice and qualifying, the teams get 3 sets of each type. Racing slick, known as prime, and optional. Teams can use whatever they want during the practice, the heats, and the open. But in qualifying, you can only use the prime compound.
There wasn't that from sticker sets from optional to prime. Yesterday on the cars that did get to qualify, it was not all that far of a time gap. There was maybe I think I seen at worst 0.2.
Okay.
Maybe.
For the All-Star race itself, those that make it in anyway, they will get 2 sets of each compound, with NASCAR determining if wet weather tires should be used. So that means maximum of 4 sets if that's the case. If not, all teams mandated. And judging by what the weather's going to be here and how it moves generally to the east, things should be fine for the All-Star race tomorrow.
Should.
And if weather is not a concern, in other words, NASCAR doesn't say you have to start the race on wet weather tires, you have to begin the race on the red option tires. You can change after that, but you have to begin the race on the red optional. Okay, go for it.
I don't think that's all that terrible of a bad thing. I mean, because you're going to have aggressive racing to start.
Absolutely.
And the way the racetrack widened out yesterday.
Yeah. You want to talk about a track that really took to taking some rubber and becoming really good.
And you've got these crew chiefs that are former late model racers going. Then their my exact words were, "My God, that looked like a late model race."
Yeah, they were surprised how quickly this track started taking in rubber and getting racing.
Whoever is sitting there that determines this, that, or the other from the competition side. If you got drivers saying what they're saying, you got crew chiefs that are former racers saying, "Yes, yes, yes." Hey, Phelps, O'Donnell. Oh, let's just say Ben Kennedy as well.
Sure.
Look in the mirror and go,
yeah.
Why didn't we do this quicker? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's looking good. Let's get back into Amazon Prime's partnership with NASCAR, and it's more than just having those 5 Cup Series races and all of the first half of the season's practices and qualifying sessions other than the Daytona 500. As part of this deal, Amazon Prime has agreed to do several. Exactly how many that means, we don't know. Several documentaries related to racing, and the first announced one is actually going to be a 4-part series on the life of Dale Earnhardt Sr. and his family, which means Daddy, Ralph Earnhardt, and the kids. Okay. Amazon's release date on the as-yet untitled documentary, we don't know the date, but the press release on it says that it'll be produced by Imagine Documentaries, NASCAR Studios, and a production company called Everyone Else. That's all in association with, shockingly, Dirty Mo Media. Who owns that? Dale Jr. The series is executive produced by Brian Grazer, Ron Howard. That's Imagine Documentaries. Then you've got Sarah Bernstein and Justin Wilkes, also of Imagine Entertainment. Matt Summers, Tim Clark of NASCAR Studios, and from Everyone Else, TJ Martin, Dan Lindsay, and Tony Mayhoff. I'm going to be interested to see this because we have seen documentaries in the past, and some of them are done more for dramatic effect than actual, hey, let's kind of get you into the real life and times.
Right.
You know, 3, The Life of Dale Earnhardt, that kind of ESPN Films one that had Barry Pepper starring in it.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully it'll happen, and I can't wait to see what else they come up with. Then there's the Cup Series fascination with Australian Supercar Series drivers. Good grief. All of this, of course, continuing in the aftermath of what we saw in the relative success of Shane Van Gisbergen, who, of course, walked in, won his very first race. It was on the Chicago Street Course. The latest that gets to wade across the Pacific Ocean for a drive is a kid by the name of Cam Waters. Cam Waters is set to drive the Stage 60 car for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing when we get to Sonoma Raceway next month. If you want to see what he looks like, take a look at this release from RFK Racing on CRN Live on YouTube. Waters, an 11-time winner in the supercars for Tickford Racing, made his NASCAR debut at Martinsville last month in the Truck Series, racing for ThorSport. So if the name sounded familiar, that's why. He then raced for them again at Kansas, finished 13th and then 19th, so that's not bad. Now he turns around and he gets into a Cup Series car for the first time ever, which, according to all reports, is at least a bit more like the car that he drives down under. Mm-hmm. So it ought to be interesting to see exactly how well he does, and he's going to Sonoma, which means he's going to a road course, which is kind of in the wheelhouse of Australian supercars drivers.
Hey, Justin, put Shane in the race at Sonoma because RCR is going to bring a third car as well for another supercar driver, Will Brown.
Might as well.
And let's just have an Aussie supercar V8 race. And
there you go. Race within the race. There you go. Yeah. I like it. Cool story in the aftermath of Brad Keselowski breaking his 110 race winless streak at Darlington. Speaking of RFK Racing, kind of showing things off. This was a kind of a cool little deal they did on their social media. If you're looking at CRN Live on YouTube, you can kind of see how they did that. And I brought that to CRN Live on YouTube specifically for one reason. We haven't seen it in a long time, but as is customary for Brad Keselowski, when he wins a race, he grabs an American flag and he puts it in his car for a celebration lap, right? You see it right there on that picture if you're on CRN Live on YouTube. Well, that flag went a little bit of an adventure on Monday. In a YouTube video posted by Brad's wife, his eldest daughter, Scarlett, took that very flag to her school. The 8-year-old presented it to her teacher, and they used it when the class cited the Pledge of Allegiance. Pretty cool.
It was cool.
Very, very cool
Very
stuff.
cool.
By the way, his win not only snapped the long winless streak for Brad Keselowski, dated back to April 2021 at our track, Talladega, marked his first win since he bought into what had been Roush Fenway Racing. Now, that means that he is the first driver to win a race for a team that he also owns since Tony Stewart did it back at Sonoma back in 2016. Denny Hamlin doesn't count because, yes, he owns 2311, but he doesn't race for 2311. Okay? Mm-hmm. With all the rumors about Stewart-Haas Racing, speaking of them, doing this and that, please keep in mind they are only rumors. What did we say last week? And what have we said on the podcast that Tony Stewart said before the beginning of the year?
Unless you hear it out of my mouth, don't believe it. End quote.
But here's the latest. Stewart-Haas Racing could merge in with Cowlig or Trackhouse Racing. What? No. Then on top of that, somebody came up with the thought that, oh, wait a minute, Cowlig, Trackhouse, maybe they could merge. Would you people stop? I don't know who you are or why you're trying to drum up stupid rumors like this, but for the love, stop.
There are a couple. I'll say it again. A couple of these little YouTube media people that have common sense. And
there's a couple, yeah.
And they put things out there that have validity.
Sure.
But the other 99.8% of you,
those people that call themselves social media influencers,
YouTube bloggers, get a godforsaken life.
Yeah, stop.
You're the one that's stirring up all this junk. Yeah.
And whoever came up with this Cowlig Racing merging with Trackhouse Racing bit, Cowlig's Chris Rice appeared on SiriusXM's NASCAR channel on Wednesday morning and said flatly, quote, "We're not merging. We're not doing anything like that. We are very close to Trackhouse. We'll be close to Trackhouse for a while, but we're also very close to RCR if you want to look at it that way."
And now to the microphone, John Myers.
Oh, you were saying there are a few good people on social media.
There's a few.
A few.
Yeah, I'm looking at two of them.
Well,
two of them.
But I'm biased,
I'm gonna leave this little tidbit right here. Something that I shared on Twix, Steve's new beloved website place. It was late after I seen what I saw that has now surpassed over 900 views. Unless you hear it direct from Tony Stewart himself, don't believe it. Pretty sure I've heard that man say that a billion times in his career, and I tagged Stewart-Haas Racing in the quote. Mm-hmm. One of the individuals that liked my said quote is none other than the chief graphic designer of Stewart-Haas
Racing. So there you go. One more note out of the Cup Series. Congratulations out to legacy MC driver Eric Jones and his wife Holly. They announced this week they're expecting their first child later this year. On Holly's Twix account, they posted and pronounced, quote, "We're getting Oscar, a tiny human, that Jones baby, November 2024. For the record, by the way, Oscar's their pet dog. Mm-hmm. You'll see the pictures up on CRN Live on YouTube of them showing off the little onesie for the as yet undetermined baby. And then the puppy, who is going to be the big brother.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
Congratulations, class of 20.
4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. We appreciate it. Hour number 2 getting underway here, and taking a quick look at what's going on since we're going to start talking about IndyCar here anyway. They already been on track here. They're starting to do practice runs before they get into actual qualifying here in, about an hour or so?
Yeah, a little under an hour from now.
So, yeah, I mean, the amount of practice that they do for the Indy 500 is unreal, and, makes me wonder why NASCAR isn't taking further hints, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
You noticed something. You noticed a couple of things, actually. Number one, there's somebody that should be looking at tomorrow's bump day and going, I'm probably going to be the one bumped if something isn't done.
Yeah, unfortunately, and you and I had the opportunity to sit in the booth with him at Barber. Good kid.
Good kid, yeah.
Real good kid, but Nolan Siegel's in trouble.
Yeah, he does not have the car.
I'm looking at the 9 that hit the track this morning in the 1 hour, I guess you could say warm up for qualifying that starts in less than an hour. Out of the 9 cars, 7 of them were Honda.
Which means they felt like they needed the practice.
Yeah.
And that's not the greatest thing on the planet.
You only had 2 Chevrolets hit, Romain Grosjean and Connor Daly.
And Romain Grosjean doesn't really surprise me there because Hungos Hollinger Racing, they probably could use the extra work.
Yeah, I mean, he was P4. Just barely behind quick time, which was Alex Palou.
There's a shock.
Yeah, but he's only cracked 232.7, and you've got other Hondas hitting 234.
Yeah, and you got Chevrolets, which are pretty consistently in that area.
And out of the 9, all 5 Ganassi cars took time this morning, so...
Ooh, something's going on at Ganassi.
Something's up. Tells me Chip's a little worried.
Yep. All right, we'll keep an eye on that. And right about now, green flag dropping on F1, starting their qualifying for the Emilia-Romagna in Imola.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go through that whole process.
Q1 is rolling.
So they just got started.
Dadgummit.
Okay.
Sign in again.
That's all right. We'll keep you updated on it. Let's talk a little IndyCar news here. Got another picture for you here, and as we figured was going to be the case when we talked about it last week, McLaren Racing confirmed it on Monday. Callum Ilott, he is the one who filled in for David Malukas the first 2 races of the year. Now that Malukas is out, they had to fill in the rest of the year. Callum Ilott is going to drive in the Indy 500. He has been practicing the car. He will qualify it later today, and if he happens to make Fast 6, Fast 12, or try to avoid being bumped out, he'll be in the car throughout the course of the run here. So, again, this is just the Indy 500, though. Once he's done and the Indy 500 is done, the rest of the year, it goes to Théo Pourchaire. We talked about that on last week's show. He'll take over the number 6 the remainder of the season. Why wasn't Ilott put in the car with his IndyCar experience? Well, because he signed on to drive in the World Endurance Championship this year, where he's currently second in the standings, and there was just way too many dates that conflicted with the IndyCar dates past the Indy 500. So,
yep.
Théo Pourchaire is the guy. All right. We'll have to see how he does. That's why I said at the beginning of the show when I did the points rundown and talked about the rookie standings, Théo Pourchaire's number of 30 will start to rise quickly. Hopefully, we've made it clear that one Kyle Larson is pulling off the double this year, racing in both the Indy 500 and Coca-Cola 600. You might remember that if you've listened to the show for any length of time. Turns out, a couple of others are also set to do their version of the double. One of them is a guy who I have the ultimate respect for and is on his last lap, as we have talked about him. It is PRN lead announcer Doug Rice, the Performance Racing Network NASCAR lead guy, is going to be part of the Indy 500 broadcast for the IRN, the IndyCar radio network, as well as then heading down to be the lead announcer for PRN's own coverage of the Coca-Cola 600. So he's going to get to do both, which is a dream come true. There's no doubt about that. So congratulations to Doug Rice. I think it's fantastic that he gets to do this stuff.
Good
By the way,
him.
I don't think it's the first time he's done Indy 500 coverage. I think he's been a minor part of it in the past.
He's part of the PRN and IRN collaborate with each other
Yeah.
for the Brickyard.
Sure.
And he does the Brickyard stuff. But I can't remember him doing the Indy 500.
I want to say he was a part of it. I don't remember how. But either way, it doesn't really matter. Indy is a place that he is familiar with, as noted.
Right.
Because PRN works with the IRN radio network when it comes to NASCAR going up there and racing in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Well, we mentioned that there's a couple of others, right? Doug Rice is one. Number two, and this is a hybrid double, if you want to look at it that way. 7-time champ Jimmy Johnson of the Cup Series is going to do this. Now, he's been claimed by NBC to do a package of at least 4 Cup Series races as race analyst later on this year. But he's going to get the chance to find out what it's like being part of the NBC Indy 500 broadcast team before he heads out to Charlotte and then climbs into the number 84 Toyota that he owns or co-owns, where he will race in the Coca-Cola 600. So on the way from Indianapolis to Charlotte, he will get out of the suit and tie and climb into a driver's suit.
Pretty sure he'll have a couple passengers on his plane with him.
Probably so. Remember, when NBC takes over the Cup Series broadcasting, Johnson's slated to be a commentator in the booth for the Daytona and Talladega races. And whenever he is going to be in the race car for whatever race, he will be accessible to NBC. Probably not while they're under green flag, but still, he'll be accessible.
And you've got two as well. You've got a spotter that's doing the double as well.
And I was about to turn it over to you for that one, because this one's an interesting one as well. The respect that I've got for Doug Rice is the fact that if he's going to be there the majority, if not all, of the Indy 500, that's a lot of talking. Then you got to turn around and you got to do another 600 miles worth. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. And having done back-to-back weekends at Talladega and Barber and doing the podcast and doing all the stuff that I do throughout the course of the week, I know how much talking we're talking about here, and it can be rough on a voice. For him to do 1,100 miles of coverage in a day with a flight in between from Indianapolis to Charlotte, oof.
Oof, indeed.
I have a lot of respect for that, no doubt about it. Speaking of doing a lot of talking, this guy that Matt's about to talk
You've got two as well, the spotter. You got Brent Wentz. He's going to be doing the double as well. He's doing spotting for Takuma Sato at the 500, and then going to turn around and go to Charlotte and do the spotting for the 15 Rick Ware car in the 600. So, talking about doing a lot of talking.
Yep.
He's
take care of that voice, boys.
No doubt.
Take care of those voices. Back to Kyle Larson again, trying to become the second driver to run all 1,100 miles of the double since Tony Stewart did it back in 2001. Keeps running into Mother Nature when it comes to prep. Good grief. Mother Nature, give him a break. Tuesday of this week, he was in India for only the first official day of practice for the race. He was only able to get in 2 laps before it was washed out. Lucky for him, better weather ahead, according to the National Weather Service. Some 30 hours of practice between now and Indy 500 actual race day. Because, even though they're going to get qualifying in this weekend, there's more practice to come. He has said this, and we're going to go ahead and put it out there right here, right now. Kyle Larson knows which side of the bread for him is buttered on. He has said if anything delays the Indy 500, rain or a whole lot of caution flags, whatever it might be, he has a cutoff time. And once they hit that cutoff time, he'll bring the car down pit road if they're still racing. He'll get out of the car, and he'll hop on that plane, and he'll be gone to Charlotte so that he's there in time to get into the Coca-Cola 600.
Yeah, I don't think weather's going to be a problem.
Weather shouldn't be a problem. Cautions? We'll find out. We'll find out.
Typically, it runs fairly clean.
Typically, it does, but hey, I'm just saying. If it happens, there you go.
Yep.
Last year in the Indy 500, Joseph Newgarden got the win, continued a long streak of the race not having a repeat winner. It was something that the sponsor of the Indy 500 trophy, Board Warner, was kind of trying to incentivize, about 30 years ago now. The company back in 1995 put up a bounty, so to speak, $20,000, and said it would increase by that amount each and every year that bounty wasn't claimed should a driver be able to repeat as the Indy 500 champion. Well, again, that was 1995. since the jackpot was created, one driver has claimed the jackpot. That was when Elio Castroneves won back-to-back in 2001, 2002. So that means that the jackpot currently sits at $440,000. I'll take it. Can I have it?
Sure.
That's, of course, assuming that Newgarden wins his second in a row this year. Thing is, as noted, it's been 22 years since we've seen a repeat winner, right? That 2001, 2002 was only the fifth time that any driver in the now 108-year history of the Indy 500 has ever had repeat winner. 5 times. First person to do it, Wilbur Shaw, did it 1939, 1940. Then Maury Rose was able to turn the trick 1947 and 48. Bill Vukovich then turned the trick next, 1953, 1954. And then we had to wait until Al Unser could do it again, and that was 1970 and 71. And then another 3 decades before Elio Castroneves was set to do it. So there's 2 ways of looking at it. Number 1, it's either highly unlikely, or number 2, we're due. I don't know which. Take your choice.
I would say due.
I'm not a betting man. And even if I were, I'm not betting on a repeat winner.
True.
As we look further ahead in this IndyCar season, we've kind of been wondering when, officially, the new hybrid system for the twin-turbo V6 power plant is going to come in. I mean, let's face it, it was somewhere right about a year ago now that IndyCar started to say, okay, we're going to start laying out significant test sessions to ensure that both the Chevrolet and the Honda engine packages can handle it, right? IndyCar officials now are saying on track, in racing, the hybrid package will debut at Mid-Ohio. About a month from now.
Fair place to debut it. I'd say fair. Great. Fair.
Where would you have preferred to see it? Other than Indianapolis. Because they're not going to do it there.
Road America.
Okay.
Bigger road course.
True.
Significantly bigger road course.
Yeah, that's true.
But the upcoming little test they're having on the oval with it, that's where my eyes are going to be.
Yeah, let's talk about that test for a minute here. They're going to put the car out there. What is it? The week after the Indy 500?
Yes. I think the week after. Yes, the week after the 500, in between Indianapolis and Detroit.
And since they're going to be in Detroit, well, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump over to Michigan, right?
That little place in Brooklyn.
That 2-mile D-shaped oval that has banking of, 16, 18 degrees tops?
Something like that, yeah.
It's relatively flat. Not as flat as Indianapolis, but relatively flat. But again, it's a D-shaped oval. It's not Indianapolis with, say, a 90-degree turn.
No.
And in qualifying trim, these drivers are approaching 235 at Indianapolis. You go, and yes, you add some weight when you add the hybrid system on there.
I would say those cars yesterday were probably trimmed 80% of the way out.
Probably.
I said they weren't fully trimmed.
All right. So you're going to get the twin-turbo V6 power plant. You're going to still have the push-to-pass system. And remember, in practice sessions, you have unlimited push-to-pass, and you can use it anytime you want. Ask Team Penske and Joseph Newgarden. And then on top of that, they're saying the hybrid system should add about 100 to 150 horsepower to that output already. Now, again, yes, it'll add some extra weight, but 100 to 150 horsepower should negate all of that weight and maybe then some, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're thinking 240.
I said this Wednesday, and I will say it again. And we're going to timestamp this one at 9:18. If the official world closed course speed record is not threatened, I will be shocked.
Mm-hmm. 241 plus.
If it's not threatened, I'll be shocked.
Go for it. Knock it out. Who's the driver?
Tom Blomqvist.
Tom Blomqvist. Okay.
Yep.
Then there's something else that I talked about in the blog post on crnradio.us. And this one was for IndyCar. Understand something, IndyCar. You got a lot of interest in your series right now. Prima Motorsports has said they're all butt in on racing in IndyCar beginning in 2025, but there's another team that has expressed interest in joining a series. It's the logo that you're about to see on CRN Live on YouTube if you're watching there. It's Pratt Miller Motorsports. But now all of a sudden, those guys, they're starting to pump the brakes on their 2025 plans. The team is already integrated with Chevrolet. They lead the Corvette racing program. They have for over 30 years now. They've been working with Chevrolet and helped them re-enter IndyCar as an engine provider back in 2012. So they know Chevrolet well. We know that they would be paired with Chevrolet. Back in 2023, team officials admitted that they were considering fielding an IndyCar team with at least one car as soon as 2025. But since then, and since that interview, things have changed, and that led team vice president Brandon Widmer to tell Racer.com this past week, quote, there's a few things that didn't come together from a timing perspective. One, the engine availability is a real challenge right now, but grid space availability is the real challenge. Said they're still looking at it for the future, but he admitted this, quote, there's a lot of things happening in the IndyCar series right now, and it's still an exciting series for us, and if we think that we can do well there, then we will. So what's the holdup? Other than the issue of Chevrolet feeling like it might be stretched a little too thin on engines, he said, quote, we still have some work to do on the partnership side of things as well. That's still a target of ours. We're not giving up, but it's got to be the right program, the right situation, the right timing, and right now the timing is not ideal for us in 2025. We all know this. Sponsorship makes the racing world go round. Mm-hmm. You don't have the proper amount of sponsorship, you're not going to be able to build the proper car. But then again, there's the grid space situation, and that is where we're going to... Producer John, should we be taking a break here? Okay. So I'll tell you what, let's take this break here. And this kind of goes in and ties in much more directly, again, with that blog post that I've been referencing a couple of times, in that IndyCar needs to begin to understand, with the amount of people that are interested now in getting into your series, you need to be probably looking a little bit more long-term. Even with your charter system, I think you might be looking a little bit too short-term. We'll detail it next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
We're going to get to the IndyCar situation when it comes to their proposed charter agreement situation here in a moment. Real quick, let's head over to Italy, talk about what's going on. Q1 in Formula One done.
Yep. Your bottom 5 out is going to be both of the Sauber cars with Bottas and Zhou Guanyu.
Not really shocked there.
Kevin Magnussen knocked out in Q1. Fernando Alonso knocked out in Q1.
Fernando Alonso is a bit of a shock, and I would say Kevin Magnussen's a little bit of a surprise because of what his teammate did.
Yeah, Logan Sargent is the 5th one knocked out. But you had his teammate that finished Q1 in P3. Less than a 10th off of the Red Bulls.
The more, and we talked about this here on this show and on the podcast, Nico Hülkenberg's already been signed. He's moving to Sauber Racing next year, and that's in preparation for when Audi takes over that team for 2026. And the more I'm looking at it, the more I'm thinking Kevin Magnussen's going to be out too, and Haas F1's going to have 2 new drivers next year.
Probably so, considering they put Oliver Behrman in Q1 yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I mean, FP1.
FP1, yeah.
FP1,
practice session number 1. All right. Back to IndyCar here, where the whole Pratt Miller engineering / racing team trying to figure out what's going to be going on, and there is the uncertainty when it comes to the proposed new charter system, which would mean they would be forced to, as a new team, have to battle for 2 starting positions with what we already now know. Prima Racing's bringing 2 cars in, and there are 2 cars from Chip Ganassi Racing that don't have the longevity to be able to grab charters. Okay? So if you add in Pratt Miller, you're talking 5, maybe 6 cars battling for 2 spots. The team knows that. For new teams to come in and battle like that, it's very difficult. Widmer said the team is still interested. 2026, maybe even later, is much more feasible than 2025, which I think for them is the right way to do it, because even though IndyCar is one of the cheaper series of the ones that we talk about to go in and operate a car in, we're talking $5 to $10 million, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a fairly significant outlay of money.
Mm-hmm. Very significant.
And I'm here to tell you right now that if $5 to $10 million is not significant to you, adopt me. When it comes to the charter system, IndyCar officials have said that they're going to be ready to present the finished proposal to the team owners this coming week. That's right, before the Indy 500. Penske Entertainment CEO Mark Miles tells Racer.com, quote, "We'll have a discussion with all the owners before the 500. Among the parameters that's expected, but right now not known to be included in there. 25 charters set to be doled out will be given based upon the final 2023 standings. Those 25 that get charters guaranteed starting spots every race, save one, the Indy 500. They want bump day to still mean something. Other things hinted to as being likely to be included are that teams will get no more than 3 charters. No more 4-car teams out there. Okay. Regardless of how many race cars you have, you only get 3. And the charter program will cap the number in a race to be at 27, save for the exception being the Indy 500, which is still capped at 33. Okay, so that goes back to what we were talking about. Pratt Miller. Some of their hesitancy when it comes to it. If only 27 starting spots are guaranteed, and you've got Chip Ganassi already making up 27 with their 2 most recent additions. And then you've got Prima coming in, and they're going to make it 29, vying for 27. And they come in making it 30 or 31. Your chances get significantly less the more ads you've got. So I see why they're hesitant about it.
Yep.
I do.
Yep.
So there are other questions here. Racer.com started to go back and forth with Miles, and one of the questions was, like similar to NASCAR, will IndyCar teams be able to sell or buy charters? Miles responded, quote, yes, they would have the right, with the series approval, to sell the rights to the charter. They'll have obligations. That's the way I would talk about it. I don't see it as the series owning the charter. It's really more of an agreement between the series and the teams. What we're and they are really trying to do is have the ability to either sell it or assign it, which I think of as a sale. Miles added the Penske Entertainment from time to time probably would also require a renewal of sorts of the charter, or at least an agreed-upon time interval where, and this is similar to NASCAR as well, we're going through that process right now where they're trying to renew the charter agreement to make sure everyone's still on the same page, right?
Right.
So kind of the same thing. Miles said, quote, we'll figure out how long they are, and they'll obviously have some prescribed period prior to their expiration to them to begin thinking about which teams and about what's next. He also added, quote, the teams will have no ownership rights from this into the entity of either Penske Entertainment or IndyCar. It is just a charter. I don't know why he felt like he needed to say that, but he did.
Yeah, leave it alone.
Yeah.
It's simply put, leave it alone.
Yeah. Just do a straightforward charter agreement, but do me a favor. You want to make the Indy 500 stand out, I get it, but you've got two teams that are interested in bringing at least 3 cars. Prima wants to bring 2. Pratt Miller will bring at least 1, maybe 2, so that's 31. And I get it. You're getting, quote-unquote, dangerously close to the 33 that sets the Indy 500 apart.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, turning away teams seems like bad business.
Very.
At some point in time, you might want to start working with your tracks that are dedicated specifically to IndyCar and therefore have a limited number of pit stalls and garage stalls and all that kind of and paddock area, and say, hey, listen, can we expand out to 29, 30, 31 pit stalls? We need to figure this out because it's good for IndyCar.
Yeah. I mean, Barber did it.
Yeah.
They figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
If a road course like that can figure it out, these other tracks can figure it out too.
I agree. As for the business of IndyCar, despite a lack of overall performance this season, the man with arguably the best name in all of racing, Stingray Robb, got himself a new sponsor, one that is signed on for the Indy 500 and on through the end of the year. The sponsor is called Good Heart Animal Health Centers. You'll be able to see the car up on CRN Live on YouTube here in a moment, thanks to AJ Foyt Racing. It's based out of Denver, Colorado. The company's mission statement has them providing comprehensive vet care, unparalleled service, and a collaborative experience for both the pets, their people, and, in addition, the communities they serve right now and hope to expand into. In other words, this is a company that's hoping to, I guess, go nationwide with a vet service.
Sounds like it.
Interesting. All of this takes the place of the previous announcement that had Pray.com in the role of Stingray Robb's major primary sponsor. In this case, Pray.com will remain as a sponsor on the number 41 car at AJ Foyt Racing, but they're going to be slipped into an associate partner role. In looking at that car, I know that it's on there somewhere. I'm just not sure exactly where.
It is
towards the back.
There it is.
It's
Yeah.
on the
Top.
back. Engine cowl.
Right over the engine cowl at the back. Yep. Was trying to take a just quick look at it, but you know what? What the heck? And one more note here in IndyCar before we turn our attention over to Formula One. Speaking of taking a page out of Formula One, Juncos Hollinger Racing has hired a team principal. They're going to partner with team manager David Morgan, the new boss, David O'Neill. There's a lot of Davids over there. David O'Neill is an IndyCar veteran, moves to JHR from a group called S's Racing, less a racing team than a consultant firm. He was the managing partner and principal there. Before that, he worked with Gene Haas and Gunther Steiner to get Haas F1 up and running. So he knows a little bit about racing.
Well, David,
Come on, man. Bring
get
it.
it fixed.
See what happens over there. To Formula One, where Ferrari, as we know, silly season began very early this year, and it began in Formula One when Ferrari pulled Lewis Hamilton, from Mercedes, where he will drive for them in 2025. Now they're going after Mercedes personnel. They're going to try and help Hamilton's move over to be a little bit smoother. They are. Specifically, former F1 and Formula E driver Jerome D'Ambrosio, who races for Marussia and the Lotus teams back in 2011 and 2012. He also raced in F1, and again, since Formula E. Since retiring as a driver, he's been with Mercedes as their driver development director. At Ferrari, he's going to be considered the second in command to the team boss, Fred Vasseur, who will also be put in charge of the Ferrari Driver Development Academy. He'll be joined over there from Mercedes by a guy by the name of Loic Serra. Loic will become Ferrari's head of chassis performance, similar role that he's been in Mercedes since 2013. You know, the year that Hamilton came to Mercedes and won the championship, his first one with them and his second all-time? Mm-hmm. Yeah. These two officially will start at Scuderia Ferrari on October the 3rd of this year. So they'll be ready for Lewis Hamilton when he gets there in 2025.
Yep.
Then there's Williams. On one hand, the front office at Williams saying they're 100% behind their two drivers. Their two drivers are Alex Albon and Logan Sargent. And they're concentrating on upgrading their underperforming racers, which have yet to score a point this year. On the other hand, team principal James Voles admits the team's talking to several drivers about a potential seat with them in 2025.
Shocker.
So which one is it? You're either behind your two drivers that you currently got, or you're looking for future drivers.
Yeah.
Voles said while the series was in Miami, quote, "What we're doing at the moment is evaluating our drivers for 26 and 25. And what we really want is the right driver pairing for those 2 years. Because when you go through a regulation change, you really don't want to be changing drivers. So we're looking for the right pairing for that period." He is trying to fend off speculation that Sargent will be replaced maybe before the end of the year with a Formula 2 driver by the name of Kimi Antonelli. We're going to get back to him in a minute. Williams, again, looking to the future. Part of it is that Alex Albon will be there. They've signed Alex Albon to a contract extension that runs through the 2027 season. His current deal was set to run through 2025 anyway. Albon has been what Williams was hoping for since they signed him away from Red Bull. He scored the majority of the team's points since he joined them back in 2022. But again, Logan Sargent, the American-born driver, is in limbo. But there is an interesting little twist here. Going back to the Hamilton situation over at Mercedes. With him having 1 foot out the door at Mercedes, we could obviously question whether or not he has really all that much weight in the hallways of Mercedes anymore. But if he does, he says, for what it's worth, that he feels like the driver that should take over the Mercedes car when he vacates it is the aforementioned Andrea Kimi Antonelli. You know, that young driver that Williams is talking about as a possible kid maybe for Williams either late this year or next.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Either way, the kid's going to need an exception from F1 because while he has enough points on his F1 super license, he's 17. You got to be 18. We'll see.
Uh-huh.
It is thought that Williams, if Mercedes doesn't sign Antonelli for 2025 to pair him, Mercedes will to pair him with George Russell. Hamilton, upon his arrival for this weekend's race at Emilia-Romagna, was asked about the Mercedes potential signing of the Ferrari driver he's set to replace Carlos Sainz. Hamilton replied, quote, "Honestly, I have no idea what Toto's plans are, but for me, taking on a youngster, if it was my job, if it was my role, I would probably take on Kimi." Antonelli's made no comment when it comes to his own preferences. That's the proper move. Again, for the 17-year-old kid who won't be 18 until October. Yeah, keep tight-mouthed about it. You just wait until you get a phone call or somebody knocks at your door. Don't say anything.
Yeah, don't say a word. Silence is golden.
Indeed. Anybody who loves going to the races, regardless of what level of racing or what series or what track or what facility, loves several things. One of those is the sound of the cars. Formula E, don't step up so fast. When Formula One introduced the current engine package, the turbocharged V6, a whole lot of people were mad. They missed the sound of the V8. Even the V10 sounds of Formula One's past. Mm-hmm. Not too distant past either, as it turns out. Mm-hmm. So what to do? Well, F1 has really done a whole lot of nothing since 2013 about this.
Yeah.
How about when the new engine regulations come in? No, probably not then either. In fact, it's something that while F1 has it on their minds, F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali said likely won't be addressed in any meaningful way until 2030. Okay. So what, if anything, does Domenicali envision at this point? He said anything and everything's on the table. And that includes, NASCAR, are you listening? The potential return of the V8 engine. Domenicali added that in transitioning to sustainable fuels, almost anything is possible. Could mean getting rid of the hybrid system as well.
That tugs at my heartstrings.
First things first, he said, quote, as soon as the 2026 engine regulations are defined, we'll start to think about what the next steps will be, such as the 2030 engine.
Nice.
All of a sudden, all those teams that are talking about maybe getting into NASCAR, they're on notice.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Before we get back into the news here, let's talk qualifying here for a moment. And let's start in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, because that is where qualifying for trucks was supposed to happen. I say was supposed to happen. It got canceled because of all the stuff that they got going on, probably Mother Nature playing a bit of a role as well. So with qualifying canceled, they go back to the rules book, and turns out that Eric Almirola does not have enough points on the number 16 truck. So he is a DNQ, and he and the 16 truck team packs up and goes home. So they will not be racing there tonight. Then we go over to Italy, where Q2 is done.
Completed.
Okay, what do we got now?
Your bottom five out in Q2, you have Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, and Sergio Perez.
Sergio Perez is a little bit of a surprise.
He barely missed getting in to Q3. So your final 10 running for the pole is going to be Daniel Ricciardo.
You're starting 10-1.
10-1.
10-1, okay.
Daniel Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Nico Hülkenberg, Carlos Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, Yuki Tsunoda.
Nice run for Yuki.
Charles Leclerc, and that Verstappen guy.
What a shock. Max Verstappen. Hello. Somebody come in. All right. Where else are we going to go here? How about sticking with Formula One here? Remember us talking about Gene Haas and Gunther Steiner? You know, that group that formed that union back in 2014, 2015, and suddenly had a Formula One team in 2016? Pretty cool, huh? Yeah. They're probably not on each other's Christmas card list anymore. Just saying. Earlier this year, Steiner brought a lawsuit against the Haas F1 organization over what they called a breach of contract, dealt with unpaid commissions in the final 3 years of his time there. The suit was filed in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, where Steiner claims in the suit that Haas has profited from his own connections and knowledge and continues to use his name, image, and likeness in Haas F1 promotional materials and merchandise, and he should be compensated for that.
All righty.
It's not altogether wrong in some ways. I mean,
no, not really.
You know, but at the same time, a lot of the stuff that you did, I don't know, has necessarily got changed from last year when you were still employed there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way.
I don't know.
How about this in response?
I don't know.
Haas Automation, the parent company and the title sponsor of the Haas F1 team, has now launched a suit that they're careful not to term as a countersuit. Instead, the team is alleging that Steiner and 10-Speed Press, which is a subsidiary of Penguin Random House Publishers, they didn't have the permission to use the Haas Automation trademarks that were included in his book that came out last year. Haas Automation has filed their suit in the U.S. Central District Court of California.
Interesting.
Oh, boy.
Here we go.
These two kids can't play in the same sandbox together.
No.
Gamers, you're officially on notice about the next F1 video game. It's set to hit stores July 23rd. It will be available for PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series. Why can't they just name it Xbox 2? Of course, we went from Xbox 360 to Xbox One, so what the heck do I know?
Yeah, it's called overcomplicating things.
Yeah, and it'll also be available for your PC, should you choose to do it that way. According to the maker, Frontier Developments, the players can even get now more involved than they ever have been before, including those who pre-order getting some actual exclusives. Now, I will say this. If you pre-order, there is a system in there that allows you to create your own liveries, as they call it in Formula One, paint jobs. And you get some exclusives that only pre-order people can get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if it's really worth it, but hey, if you want to pre-order it, pre-order it. And even if you don't pre-order it, the game is full of options that you as the player would get very, very deep into when it comes to your F1 team. In fact, there is the return of Team Principal mode. Now, obviously, you could start your own team and you would be the owner, right? In this case, you're not the owner. You're the principal. You do make all the decisions, no pressure. But you could be fired in career mode. It'll allow you to put yourself on one of the hottest seats of all the sports. You could build up your own F1 team and create a team. You could pay, by the way, any attention, Formula One, create a team. Just saying. Plus, there's more, including customizing your team's overall look on the car, the fire suits for the drivers, the crew members. There's a mentality system that will give the players a bigger idea of how to deal with personalities, and let's face it, the egos, of the F1 drivers and trying to keep the ones that they want, all while developing drivers for the future. If you'd like to find out more or pre-order the game, you can go on now to f1manager.com. The graphics look really, really cool.
They do.
I'll give it that.
Very much so.
If I had a PlayStation 4, I might be willing to play it. But I don't, so I can't. I'm going to change things up on John here. I'm going to go Xfinity Series before I go NASCAR. And there's a reason why, because I think ending it talking about that gentleman is much more appropriate.
I agree.
So in the Xfinity Series, only a couple of bits of news. Junior Motorsports, they need a new crew chief when they get to Charlotte. The number one Chevrolet Camaro, NASCAR decided they needed to suspend crew chief Marty Lindley for the Charlotte race because when they hauled that car back amongst 2 or 3 other cars that they brought there from last weekend at Darlington, they determined that the one car had failed to follow rulebook procedure in getting their chassis recertified. So somewhere down the line, they got dinged on something and said, you're going to have to go back through. And apparently they didn't go through all the proper procedures. Is that the way I'm reading this?
That's what it sounds like to me.
In addition to the suspension of the crew chief, NASCAR's docked driver Sam Mayer and the car owner 10 championship points. In addition to sending Lindley to the bench, NASCAR sent 2 others to the bench. They're going to miss this weekend's racing in North Wilkesboro. The crew members Marcus Horton of Thor Sport Racing's number 88 truck, Jarek Newsom of Rev Racing's number 2 truck are going to be sitting back because of the use of unapproved protective equipment at Darlington. We don't know what the equipment was. We don't know whether it was out of date. We don't know whether they added webbing like Joey Logano did earlier on the year. We don't know what it was, but either way, NASCAR didn't like it, said, you sit down for a race. But there was a reinstatement.
Mm-hmm.
NASCAR reported they have reinstated Richard Childress Racing crew member Nicholas Covey. Covey had been suspended for a violation of NASCAR's substance abuse policy. He is now able to return. So he went through the road to recovery process. And
awfully quick.
Yeah.
It was just a few weeks ago.
Well, they never told us what the substance was.
Yeah, there are a lot of flaws in that system because some things that are natural,
yeah,
I guess you could say, will flag one.
Sure.
Poppy seeds on a bagel.
Not necessarily that, but yeah, same basic idea.
Yeah.
And then there's Joe Gibbs Racing. They continue to fill out the lineup of their star car, the number 19 Toyota in Xfinity Series competition. They announced this week that they're going to pull up 3-time Whelen Modified Tour champion Justin Bonsignor to get in the car in about a month when the series heads up to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. There's a reason why they chose New Hampshire, by the way.
For sure.
Now, that race will mark his first in Xfinity Series competition, but Justin at New Hampshire, 25 starts over the past 14 years, including 3 wins and 10 top 5s. All of that since 2007. And since 2007, he has claimed 41 wins on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour.
Solid pick. Solid pick.
Yeah, indeed. I get the funny feeling, though, that Justin, this is kind of a neat one-off ride because he's in his, mid-30s, if I remember right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's too late to begin kind of having a career, if you will, in the Xfinity Series, but at the same time, most people aren't thinking about moving to the Xfinity Series on a full-time basis in your mid-30s.
Right.
So, at the same time, hey, dude, knock it out. Go knock it out.
Go for it, indeed.
And then, unfortunately, we found out about the passing of Eddie Gossage on Thursday evening / Friday morning. And this is a guy who was just so influential. In fact, last night, when they were kind of waiting out the rain, which, as it turned out, killed the qualifying for the NASCAR Open. Ty Gibbs is going to start on the pole for that. They decided to go back and do the Fox Sports 1 documentary, One Hot Night, which was how Charlotte Motor Speedway put the lights up and put the All-Star race under the lights for the very first time.
Yep.
And to have Eddie Gossage be such a part of that documentary was so cool and so timely.
For sure.
So timely.
For sure.
Gossage, longtime head of Texas Motor Speedway, the promoter that was mentored by some of stock car racing's pioneers. He was born William Edgar Gossage in October 1956 in Nashville, got his first job in racing at the historic Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway in their publicity department. After a short time there, he got hired by Bristol Motor Speedway before quickly being snapped up by the Miller Brewing Company. He became the head of their racing department where he was for 6 years. But it was there, working with them, that he caught the attention of the bigwigs at Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, specifically Charlotte Motor Speedway's H.A. Humpy Wheeler. No shrinking violet when it comes to being a promoter himself. He brought Gossage on board to become the VP of Public Relations for Charlotte back in 1989, and he was there until 1995 when SMI President Bruton Smith said, you know what, I'm building this really cool facility out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I want you to be the leader of it. And he became the general manager of the new Texas Motor Speedway. Stayed there until he retired back in 2021. Throughout his career, he became known as one of NASCAR's and really racing's best promoters. He led the way into activities that garnered media attention for his facilities to the point where he didn't have to pay for it. And let's face it, in this world, free publicity is the best kind of publicity.
Absolutely.
Gossage said that his inspirations were people like noted boxing promoters Don King and Bob Arum. You want to talk about people that are almost over the top, truth be told, but in a cool way in some ways. I mean, can they get on your nerves? Yes, but they come up with some of the coolest things when you think about it. In his role, Gossage was the spearhead along with Wheeler that convinced the Smith family of SMI to install lights at Charlotte Motor Speedway to help increase the fan experience when it came to the annual All-Star race. And starting in 1992 with, again, what has become known as One Hot Night, the All-Star race has become a major fan attraction on the schedule, whether it's at Charlotte or literally anywhere else. And it's been to Atlanta, it's been to Bristol, it's been to Texas, and now it's at North Wilkesboro. It was also Gossage who created Texas Motor Speedway's traditional Victory Lane celebration. Remember when the winners shot blanks out of twin six-shooters? It was a tradition that got phased out in the last couple of years under pressure from anti-gun forces. It's Texas. What do you care about anti-gun forces? Texas? If I got to be GM or president of Texas Motor Speedway, I'm sorry, I'm bringing it back.
I second that.
That was one of the coolest celebrations ever. He also stood up to the drivers when after the first couple of races at Texas, the drivers complained about the track. Gossage did order a repave of Turn 4, but the drivers said that the wall could jump out and bite you. In the end, he and Bruton Smith worked up T-shirts for the workers at the track to wear that read, quote, "Shut up and race." And he sold them to the fans on the race weekend as well, and they sold out. The drivers shut up, and they raced. Gossage was married twice, had 2 children from his first marriage. Back in 2008, however, he got diagnosed with cancer. The next year after fighting it, he was declared cancer-free, but as cancer tends to do, it returned. Cancer sucks. Producer John said it exactly. Exactly when was never disclosed by the family, but it was cancer that indeed took Gossage much too early. Eddie Gossage passed away Thursday, 65 years old. Definitely will be missed.
No doubt.
He, Humpy Wheeler, unfortunately, kind of a breed that we may never see again. Truth be told,
you could very arguably say the top 2 racetrack promoters of our era.
Yeah, absolutely,
arguably.
And I would say this: we need to see those kind of people again. I'm not one of them. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I'm not anywhere near that creative, boys and girls. I'm sorry, I'm not. Would I love to be in a position to be a GM or a president of a track? 100%. I would be looking for the creative people to surround myself with in order to be able to come up with the right promotions to get that track into the press and to the attention of the media, not only in the market, whatever it might be, in the case of Texas Motor Speedway, Dallas, Fort Worth, but around the country. Gossage did it all. He could lead the team and he could tell the team, this is what we're going to do. And H.A. Humpy Wheeler was one of those guys. I'll tell you another guy who's kind of like that. And it's a guy who's no longer at Talladega. He moved to Darlington. It's Russell Branham.
Yeah.
He's good.
He is.
He's good.
He's right there.
He is.
He's right
there. Absolutely. So Eddie Gossage, rest in peace to family and friends of Eddie Gossage. Our thoughts and our prayers are with you, no doubt. Q3, about done?
Q3 has got 1:27 left.
All right, who's out?
That Verstappen.
That Verstappen guy.
Yeah, Verstappen guy. he's up top again.
Of course he is. All right, that's probably going to be the way that it's going to go. Hope you guys enjoy the racing this weekend. Of course, we'll be back next week. We'll tell you all about it. We'll be gearing up for the greatest day in racing, Monaco, Indy 500, Coca-Cola 600. Oof, that's some racing right there, boys. And that's not it either. That's not it. That's not the entire slate. We'll give you the entire slate and get you prepared for it once we get there. In the meantime, don't forget, Wednesday, we got Cross Flags coming up. That'll drop Wednesday afternoon. We'll have it up as soon as we can on CRN Live on YouTube. Make sure you join us then. And, of course, join us again next Saturday as we bring you another edition of the Championship Racing Network. Until then, enjoy the racing this weekend. Be careful. We'll talk to you Wednesday and next Saturday. See ya.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.